and Oscar Palema.
Look at that!
Wow.
Belmont.
All right. I'm back. Episode 13. Welcome back to Over the Cap. It is Mike Val back here again. A little 2-week absence. We had some schedule conflict. We had some things going on. A little busy around here. But things happen, and we're back. So I do have said guest for tonight. Said guest is in traffic right now. I'm going to read to you what he texted me. Well, this one's actually pretty good. He goes, stuck in traffic. The car accident we were stuck behind, they're cutting somebody out of the car. That's pretty serious shit if you ask me. So we're going to just kind of hang out until Martell gets here. God only knows where he is right now, but we're going to hang tight here. I will go on what can I go on a rant about until Mike joins us here? Well, I may go on a rant about the Mets, right? Let me tell you about the New York Mets. They stink. A $340 million payroll, and I got to watch that fat slob Daniel Vogelback bat fifth in my lineup. Are you kidding me? $340 million are going to bat that guy fifth. Please. Or how about the fact that we have Starling Marte slides in head first, hits his head on the bag. I have a headache. I don't want to play. Stop it. Just stop it. But I did bet the Padres last night, and what happened? The Mets never beat Yu Darvish. They haven't beat Yu Darvish since Barack Obama was the president. And what happened? 5-0 Mets last night. All the Met fans out there, you're welcome, including me. I kind of stuck that one right up my hole, if you know what I mean. Nico, JP is in Vegas. It's kind of hard for Johnny to come on now on Tuesdays ever since he's healthy. He bowls league at South Point tonight. So he can only give me about like 45 minutes without him rushing around. So it has to be a special time to get Johnny to come back on with me unless we change the day because John has his shows on Wednesday nights. So it's kind of hard with schedule. I will tell you this, though, Nico. I am going to Vegas a week from this past Sunday. A week from yesterday, I'll be flying to Vegas for the USBC convention. I'm going to meet up with some celebrities out there, but Johnny and I are going to get together on Tuesday while I'm out there. And John and I have already talked about trying to do this live, the two of us together at the same place. Don't know whether we're going to be doing it at his house. Maybe we'll do it at South Point. Hell, we could do it at an In-N-Out Burger out there for who the hell knows. But Johnny and I will be together the 25th of April, I think is that Tuesday. But we'll be together. So that is where JP is. And it's good to see you as well, Nico. But we are still waiting for the guest, the man of the hour, to join us. We're going to have fun with Martell tonight. Now, for those who don't know, I spent about, I want to say close to maybe 4 or 5 years living in Brooklyn. Probably close to 5 years before I moved back to Jersey. And the Center I bowled, that was called Maple Lanes in Brooklyn. And for anybody who is old school, Maple was one of the hot action centers back in the day and whatnot. So Martell's mother used to run Maple, so I got to know her pretty well and whatnot. And I got to know Mike. Mike was a little rat kid, basically, and he'd hang around the bowling center. And I got to know Martell really good as a kid. I watched this kid grow up and always knew he was deemed for success. The kid just had it. And he had that New York mentality where it's like, I'm better than you. You want to come and get it. Take it from me. Come and get it. And Martell had that. He had that as a little kid. And he still has that swagger now. So it's great to see Martell making a name for himself. and shutting all the doubters up that thinks that, he's a product of when the left is good, he has it. And that's complete bullshit. Martell knows how to bowl. I will openly say that. And I don't give credit to a lot of people. I give credit where it's due. But Martell knows how to play the game well. And he's been around for a kid who's in his early 20s. This was the first thing he needed to get over the hurdle. Any thoughts on the Masters? Yeah, here's my thoughts on the Masters. It's about time that they put the rule in that the tournament leader had to lose twice. I think that is a disgrace, and a lot of people thought that for years, that you could lead the tournament and go undefeated in the winners bracket at the Masters, and then you are one and done on the show. So I think that was a great job by the USBC. But I do see the man of the hour is here, so I'm going to give the little intro that I normally do, and this one's special because unless you're from the New York area, you're not going to get the references to the end of this. So a two-time member of Team USA. He's also a member of Junior Team USA. He was the runner-up at the 2020 team trials in Vegas. All-American at Robert Morris University as well. That was a really good team. I don't know if he bowled with Marshall or Gasson or those guys. I don't know. We'll find that out. He's shaking his head no. But he's going to get categorized in the Maple Lanes legends right now. Okay, and I see him. I'm gonna throw some names out there, and I hope Martell can hear me. I'm gonna categorize him with the Joe Lorenzos of the world, and Frankie the Swan, and Bucky, and Joe Scavone, John Pernice, John Talerci. I'm even gonna throw myself in there because there was a 5-year stretch where on 23 and 4 at Maple, Jesus Christ himself couldn't beat me on that pair. But all kidding aside, some of the really good guys that came out of Maple, Richie Hornwright, Ralph Angan, George Sabatino, and then I'm going to put Mike Martell in that list. Mike, that's a hell of an intro, dude. I mean, for those legends that I just threw out there, I mean, that is some company you're in there.
Yeah, it's a really good group of bowlers, man. If you could have told me when I was a kid that I would be mentioned in that group, that'd be pretty sweet.
I mean, you don't want to be classified as the Bucky category. I mean, that guy was just
I'm not gonna lie, Bucky was one of my favorite practice partners.
Stop it.
Up until like 4 or 5 years ago, we practiced together.
Does he still bowl?
I believe so. Not nearly as he used to, but I think he bowls out at Showplace now. I think he goes to see Saba still.
How does he drive? He doesn't have a car. He always had a bicycle, right?
Yeah, now he had some sort of sports car now.
Get the hell out of here. He had a car?
Yeah, it's like a sports car too. He put all his eggs in one basket.
Get rid of the Met hat. Now, for anybody, we're going to talk about them later. We're going to break them down. They stink. Now, let's just, for people who don't know who this Bucky character is. Now, Mike, I pulled this earlier. I'm gonna show this.
Tell me this is one of the YouTube videos of him.
It is. So for people who don't know who Bucky is, this is John Bucky Sandano. Mike, tell me if you remember these good old days here at Maple. And we're going to play this thing. Here we go. Now, the man weighed about 114 pounds soaking wet. We had the mom tattoo on his arm.
What do you want to do now?
Now,
what do you want to do now?
Look at him just chirping. I mean, these are the guys that I'm categorizing Mike Martell with. This. The old four. I think 3-step approach or 4-step approach. I don't know what this guy did. Let's watch the form. Oh my. All right. Nice shot.
Those are some good days, and I sit behind them and watch every Saturday.
You were there every Saturday watching us bowl. Now, I don't even know, how old are you? You're what, 20 what? 20 what?
25.
Yeah, so you were there you saw everything in that building. So we'll go back to the fun stuff in a little bit. So why don't we get into it? How'd you start? We got the Brooklyn roots. So how did we get into bowling? I know Mom was influential at Maple. So how did we get started in the game? Let's start there. We'll be a little serious. We'll have some fun a little bit.
So back when I was a baby, my mom used to bring me to the bowling center and put me on the lane, and she'd sit there and put the ball in front of me, and I'd push the ball. That's how I grew up bowling. I bowled junior leagues that she ran at Maple, transitioned into bowling at Shell. Yeah, very instrumental, obviously, in getting me started in the game. And my dad, before he passed, he was I bowled junior league, junior adult leagues with him, and they were just both of them were very instrumental in keeping me in the game. And even at a young age, they would travel with me to bowl tournaments. Once he passed away, my mom started traveling more with me to keep me into the game, and that's when I got into junior gold, obviously, teen masters, all those kind of things. Then I bowled in college. Obviously, you mentioned at Robert Morris. From there, it was always like the dream was always bowling on tour. There was no doubt that that was what I wanted to do, and obviously, we're still doing it. But yeah, I mean, there was just a long progression of bowling in Brooklyn. I bowled even in Staten Island a little bit growing up. Started traveling for some tournaments, and before you knew it, I was bowling every single weekend, whether it was PJBTs, JBTs, LYYBTs. I was bowling something every weekend, and then college bowling came around, and there was a lot of that going on, and here we are.
No regrets, right, dude?
Yeah, not at all. I mean, I've met some of my closest friends to this sport. I've made some lifelong memories with some really close people through bowling, and even still to this day, I'm still friends with a lot of people I grew up with, even in Brooklyn. So it's no regrets. This path that I've been on has been great.
And now we lost him. All right, well, we lost him. Either we lost him or he just told me to go F myself and he's done. I'm going to go with we lost him. So let's kick him out. We'll bring him back on when he gets his internet back. I don't know what happened to Martell, but we're just getting into it. So also, just to let everybody know, I do have the Mets game on. So as soon as the Mets start screwing up, I will be breaking them down and giving live updates, as I did bet the Padres again tonight. Can't bet the Mets. All right, Martell's off. He'll be back on in a minute. Yeah, like he said, I mean, I remember him as a little kid, in Brooklyn, and he would just practice. I mean, he was probably in. Oh, and he's back.
Sorry.
Oh, I thought you told me to go like F myself, and that was
no, not quite.
No, not yet. But and now, so correct me if I'm wrong. You run a shop in Long Island, right?
Yep.
And is that where you are now? You still live in Brooklyn?
So I live in Long Island now. I live in West Babylon. Right.
All right, we're having. You got some bad service out there, guy. All right.
Can you hear me?
You're coming in all choppy. You're frozen. I'm going to kick you off again, and we'll bring you back on. All right, we kicked him off. I don't know. Maybe he has to relocate to a different room. I don't know where he is, but it's all choppy. I can't control the internet for other people. Control it for me. Can't control it for him, unfortunately. But we'll get him back in a minute. So I know he runs a shop out on the island somewhere. He said West Babylon, so I guess he's probably at Babylon. I'm not sure. We'll find more about that out. All right, let's try this. All right, let's try this.
I restarted.
All right, there you go, man. No, you're good.
All right, good.
All right, so are you in Babylon? Is that where your shop is?
Yeah, so I'm living in West Babylon now. That's
okay.
where the shop is at Babylon, where they used to run the Long Island tour.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. Whenever I'm not traveling, I'm home working 4, 5, 6 days a week, whatever it is. So.
All right. So now we juggle that. So you're not home now. You said you're in Atlanta, right?
I'm in Atlanta with my tour roommate Ryan. I'm staying at his place for a week. So obviously I didn't make it through the PTQ at the World Series, unfortunately. So we're just some downtime before the last couple of stops. I'm gonna bowl some tournaments around here this weekend. Fly back to New York on Monday. Be home for 2 weeks or so before the players comes into town and
local. Yeah.
I
mean, I got to be honest. I think the fact that they got a PTQ for the World Series is kind of BS, in my opinion.
I don't want to get too much into any of that.
No, I get it.
I will say that I was not happy that I needed to bowl that PTQ after.
Oh, absolutely.
After showing, especially so, I haven't made it out of a PTQ this year yet. I'm 0 for 4. The structure of the PTQs is not beneficial to me. My average, I believe, when they're easy, I average the same thing as I do when they're hard out there. So I'm averaging 210 or 215 when putting out some really tough, challenging patterns, and I'm averaging 210 or 215 when they put out the wall. So it doesn't benefit me, the PTQ formats at all. But I don't want to dive too much into that. Obviously,
Yeah.
I don't want to talk bad about the tour. That's not my goal. But I will say, when I'm in the main field, I'm doing quite well this year. The 2 tournaments that I did bowl, I finished 18th and 2nd. So
Yeah.
so but luckily the players, I don't have to bowl a PTQ for that. The doubles, I don't have to bowl a PTQ for that. So we're in for the rest of the year.
Now, who are we bowling doubles with?
Nate Garcia.
That's the guy from Florida.
Yeah, we've run over some doubles tournaments this year. We bowled really well together. So we're gonna try and keep running it and see where it takes us.
I.e. the holiday doubles in St. Louis.
Oh yeah, that was. I mean, between Springfield doubles in October and holiday doubles in December, we've led the 2 tournaments for 98% of the games that we bowled.
Yeah.
Lose the lead at holiday doubles till the last game. At Springfield, we led going into the bracket by a couple hundred. It wasn't even close.
Now, what's the one in Springfield? I don't know about the one in Springfield.
It's a doubles tournament that Kevin Williams or at least helps put together.
Okay.
Big payout, 10,000 for first. Lots of action. Same field as holiday doubles, basically. Multiple squads. A finals format on Sunday. But it's a bracket rather than a round robin. But it's the same caliber bowler, same field. We bowled 860 over for 7 games of qualifying on Saturday for our squad.
So you struggled.
A little bit.
Yeah. He had a bad pair.
My low game in qualifying that week was, I believe it was 257.
Oh. So you had it.
Yeah, I think so.
What pisses me off is, like, I hear people say, like, well, and you and the other guys, like, they don't give you credit, but when you don't have it, you don't have it. Or when your trick's not there. I'm so disgusted when I hear shit like that, because you know how to bowl. There's no doubt about it. When you have your trick, you're not going to be beat. It's plain and simple.
Right.
But even when you don't have it, you grind it out. It's so disturbing that people knock your ability and other guys on tour that are in your situation.
Right.
It's disturbing. Like, oh, you can only throw it, with a purple or throw a urethane. I disagree totally. And
I mean, the best week of my entire career was with resin balls last week.
Yeah, exactly. So
I agree that the stereotype around urethane and being a left-hander is really, really annoying. And especially now, being that I'm on staff with Storm, I rely on resin more than I do on urethane. And I've had a lot of success at the two majors I've bowled throwing resin. I was in 3rd at the US Open. I made the show here at the Masters, and I'm not saying that I don't rely on urethane when lanes get a little weird.
You have to, though. Yeah.
But I would I've told people this day in and day out. I'd rather grind with resin and get rid of urethane altogether. I think that out of all the lefties on tour, I would like to say I'm up there when resin is more of a factor.
So when we had the show 2 weeks ago, and they were talking about you and whatnot, why did you want to quit? Why did you want to stay home? Like, why were you ready to hang them up? Because you had the talent, dude, to stay out there. So what? It's all mental, obviously, but what was it?
The tour lifestyle is really tough. You don't have a lot of time in between events to regroup. So if you're, last year, especially when we were bowling some of the smaller events, the Classic Series events, it was event after event. You have 1 day of travel in between, then you're bowling another PTQ. And, it was very grueling, because I would absolutely run over all the PTQs last year. I crushed PTQs, but then I was in the bottom 3rd every week in the main field. And it was just a little demoralizing that, one, the patterns that we're bowling on for the PTQs are obviously much softer than what we're bowling on for the main field. So I'd get into, say, a trick. I'd be working really well with something for 8 games of a PTQ. Then I have to come back the next day and bowl 16 games on something totally different, use a different trick. And I just couldn't find a way to do it fast enough. By the end of each event, I was getting lined up. I was starting to strike a little bit, but I couldn't do it fast enough. It was really demoralizing. Especially this year more than ever, the scores on tour are so high now. The talent is ridiculous. You don't have a lot of time to really figure it out and breathe and move forward and treat each event like its own, because there's only a day or two in between every event. And I'd come home and I'd whack everything I bowl at home. They're a little bit softer. Lane surface is hooking a little bit more, so it's good on the left. So there was a lot of things that went into that. It's the struggles and the trials and tribulations. Same thing I said in that interview on TV, right? It's
Yeah.
all those things kind of build up and make you not sure if you want to do it, especially because of how much success I was having at home, and how well the shop does when I'm home. Granted, they're still doing really well when I'm not home, especially this year. But our business is really good, and
Yeah.
there's guaranteed money to make it home. I skipped a couple of PTQs this year to stay home and work, and totally was the right decision for me. So it's not that those questions are still in my head. It's I love being out there. It's just a super tough lifestyle. It's really, really hard. Those guys that finish in the top 10 or 12 every week, they are special.
Oh, dude, they're phenomenal.
Jason and Simo and EJ, they could run through a brick wall every week. That's how tough they are. And that's what you need to be out there. And when you don't see yourself having success at all, not just at their level, but on any level, it's tough. And I'm glad that I stayed out there. Obviously, it paid off. But there are still times where I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is totally right still. And like again, they took 37 guys out of PTQ this week. I couldn't be in the top 37 in a PTQ. Essentially, in my mind, it's why should I be bowling the main event at that point? But the process with the PTQs, like I said, is not great. And
No.
but I'm happy with my decision to stay out there. But it's you never know, like is it totally right or not? You're never going to kill them every week. The guys that do, like I said, they're very special.
Yeah.
But, I'm always going to want to stay out there. It's just at some point, even with the success that I've had lately, it might not be possible.
You're gonna have to come to a crossroad, be like, what's the best thing for me in the future? Obviously.
Right. And obviously, the goal now is to get into the top 50 in points. Right now, going into this week, I'm 27th.
Yeah.
So where I'm at right now, if the season ended today, I don't have to bowl PTQs next year. I would probably get drafted for the league. So a lot of things moving in the right direction, but at the same time, now I'm not getting points for 4 events. So I have to see where I stand coming out of this year. The goal this year was either get to the top 50 or we stop altogether. And maybe just bowl the World Series or just the U.S. Open and the Masters, because those seem to be the events that I fare really well at.
Yeah.
So and that's still there, right? That's still like a thought. But if we get into the top 50, we're gonna go again full time.
Oh, you have to at that point.
Yeah,
It's the
right.
guarantee. Why?
Right.
And I don't know the answer to this, and maybe you do. Why is it? I think it was in the beginning of the season. The PTQ would be bowled, let's say on cheater, hypothetically, right? But you're bowling a tournament on a different pattern.
Yeah, it's still that way too.
Why? But why is? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm not trying to open up a can of worms, but like.
So what I've heard through bowlers and through the players committee and through even Tom Clark and some other guys is they don't want the PTQ guys to have what they would consider another extra practice session on a pattern that we're supposed to bowl on for the main event. And I do understand their thought process around that, but at the same time, those guys are going to get their own practice session too right after our PTQ, and obviously they don't need those extra 8 games because they don't have to bowl them. They're good enough that they avoided that situation altogether. I've said that from the beginning that I don't understand the thought process in bowling on a separate pattern. How do you know that those are the guys that are qualified for that event? If you're bowling the PTQ on 36 feet and the main event's on 41 feet, how do you know that you 12 guys? There could be somebody that matches up better to the 41 foot pattern, but you'll never know because they didn't have that opportunity. So I agree with you 100%. I don't like the idea of going on separate patterns for PTQs and main events, but it's
so weird.
The perfect example, the World Series PTQ, I matched up on the short pattern. I was in the number very softly after the first 5 games, and I did not match up. None of the lefties matched up on the long pattern, but I didn't match up on the long pattern. I bowled my way out of the cut. And, last year at the World Series, I put up 3 respectable days on the 3 patterns we bowled the main field on, and it's the same 3 patterns from last year to this year. So I think I would have been able to hold my own a little bit. But yeah, it's, why, especially after the week I had at the Masters, that's neither here nor there, but, why did I have to bowl that PTQ on something totally different than what the main field is on when I know I compete on the main field patterns, so I understand exactly what you're saying, and I don't agree with it. But I'm sure it's something, the players committee has been really good this year. Chris Barnes and whoever else is in charge, they've been really good at taking suggestions from the bowlers and trying to make improvements, and they've done a really good job at that. He's been in touch with us. We have a group chat. He's been in touch with the players almost every single day about something. And he's actually done a really good job at trying to, make some changes that benefit the players. So
yeah, Barney's pretty smart. Grandpa Barnes really intelligent when it comes to that stuff and knows what the players want.
Yeah, he's made some good changes for us this year. I'm hoping that trend continues because I like the direction of where he's trying to go. And I know some things that maybe, some other players might not know, not directly from him, but there's obviously some rumors going around about stuff
Yeah.
next year, and I don't want to disclose any of that stuff, but I do like
Nope.
what I'm hearing, and so hopefully he continues to make a positive impact.
How about this? We're talking about questions and whatnot. So does Martell's been working with a coach or tweaking his form? I noticed he wasn't rolling his shoulder.
So that's one of those things that I had been doing for a long time. My college coach doesn't like it. I would roll my shoulder and get my shoulder in the place that I would like it to be in before I threw my shot.
Yeah.
My tried to get me out of that forever. I wouldn't get out of it. I just wasn't doing much. It's still there. I just don't do it as often anymore.
So, and I didn't know this. I didn't know that you're notorious for like taking forever on the approach. Really? I never knew that.
That's not a thing anymore, but it was.
Okay.
So it was a thing. I bowled so I'll throw myself under the bus a little bit. I won the Fusion Realtors Open in 2019 in Iowa, and I took about 40 minutes to bowl the title match.
Stop it.
I'm not even exaggerating. I took about 1:20 every shot.
That's like Steve Stein territory, dude.
It was really rough, and I was interviewed by Mike Flanagan after the first thing he asked me about was why I was super deliberate. And I basically told him, there's a lot of self-doubt stuff that I would, have to fight when I was younger.
By the way, great AB by Pete Alonso striking out with the bases loaded. Carry on.
Love it. I wouldn't expect anything different.
Terrible. He stinks. Go ahead.
But, but anyways, yeah, so I mean, there was a lot of mental issues that I would fight in those situations, and that's why I would take longer because I really relied on pre-shot routine.
Gotcha.
Now, knowing that of the territory that I think I can get to, which is making a show or two and, bowling under a time crunch, I worked really hard at shortening my pre-shot routine, and I never came close to a single shot clock violation on TV. The one thing that took a little long was my mic pack in the 8th frame fell off. And so I walked off the set. They had to take it off and then put it back on. There was this whole process. But that was the only time I came close to a shot clock violation on the show. Other than that, I had 6 or 7 seconds every delivery. And honestly, that's something I was proud of because as recent as 2 months ago, I had words with guys on tour because they thought I was taking way too long. And that's not what the situation was, but I had that stereotype built in, so I was really proud of that. It took a lot to be able to speed up and bowl faster and, but it's definitely helping too because my process is cleaner and there's not as many thoughts going through my head. And, so I'm kind of glad that I was pressurized into fixing that. But the shoulder was still there for the person that asked. The shoulder roll was still there.
So let's get to the Masters week. So, I mean, obviously it's the best week of your life, obviously, in your career. So where did you qualify? Where did you qualify? I don't even know where you qualified.
I was in the top 10 after the first day and a half. But I was basically 6th on my squad. It was very evenly broken down squad to squad. I was 6th on my squad. I was 12th after the 2 squads bowled the last day. I qualified 18th for the bracket.
And you went, and who was the first match? Who did you get in the first match?
I had Brandon Novak the first match. I beat him. It was 690 to 640 or so.
Okay.
That match was never as close as it looked until the very end of the 3rd game. If he would have doubled in the 10th, the 3rd game, I just would have needed a mark. He didn't get the double, so it ended up not being close at all. But that match was never closer than 30 or 40 pins up until it got really, up until the 9th and 10th frame of the 3rd game.
Mike, they looked like they were very user friendly this year. Not in years past. Were they a little softer, or I mean, they were still half to one, right?
Yeah, it was still 1.5 on the left and 1.7 on the right. What I noticed was the bowling center we bowled at Thunder Bowl. The gutters were very, very friendly, and they put out a pattern that allowed you to stay very close to the gutter for a majority of your block. The furthest right I ever got my feet was 14. And the first time I had to move right of that was on the TV show there. And I was just playing with speed and launch angle and different bowling balls. I never really had to move my feet right to left. I moved front to back and played with speed. But they made it so you could play the lane very straight for a long period of time. And there was a lot of shim. There was free hook to the gutter because the surface is kind of like this. You couldn't really throw it in. But then they gave you shim like right around the track area. It was a bowler's dream, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Anybody that was able to see that had a really, really good week. Yeah, they were user friendly for the most part. It was very hard to big four, in my opinion. I could see myself like leaving a 379 here and there. I think the first time all week I went high and split was on the show. So
When did you feel like you had a chance to win the tournament? Like, when did you feel like, hey, I have a chance to win the Masters? Like, when did it hit?
when I got out of the match against Nick Pate, so my second match was against Nick Pate the first day.
Yeah.
And I was giving him a couple of chances the second game to catch up, and I made a ball change. It took me a few frames to really get lined up, but I started to strike, and I ran one out in front of him in the ninth frame of that match, and he kind of crumbled a little bit after that and started to give it back to me. And when it was a blind move that I really didn't trust, and they were super tight on that pair. So I really worked with speed. I got the ball speed down a ton. I light mixered like 7 or 8 shots in a row, but that was the hit that I was willing to play. Once I got out of that match, I left the bowling center. The first thing I did, honestly, is I went and got a haircut because I was like, wow, I could, everybody's like, oh, you're going to be bowling on Sunday, so you need to go get a haircut. And I was like, okay. I was like, normally I'm very superstitious, and I'm like, no, I can't do that, whatever. And I went and got a haircut. I was like, all right, sure. And like I really accepted the fact that like if I stayed in the process that I was using, there was no way I was at least not going to make the Friday show. The Friday show was at least I needed to win one more match, and I would have been guaranteed on the Friday show. Mm-hmm. And not only did I win one, but I won 3 and made the big show. But after that match against Nick was when it really set in. I was like, wow, I think my ball reaction is good enough where I could beat anybody. And we're almost right. So.
Well, and you got there. I mean, Simonson's just another animal. He is just
human buzzsaw that week. You could tell with how many different things he was able to do successfully that week that it would have been almost impossible to beat him, and it literally was. The match they bowled 840 against.
That's sick.
Threw it very hard and very, very straight the whole time with 2 different balls. And the match before that, he was like changing his tilt, playing like left of 15 and making the ball stand up in the pocket and stop. The fact that he was able to go from one super different trick to that and bowl 840 on the fly like that, it was the grossest thing I've ever seen.
Dude, he's really, really good.
Oh, I mean, like I think he's the most talent out of anybody on tour. And like he put it on full display that week. He can do more with a bowling ball than anybody I've ever seen.
And it's amazing when he can trick his hand without using his thumb. And there's not many two-handers that can really change their ball roll that much. He can do so many. He's like a magician with 2 hands.
And he can do it in one shot. It usually takes people a couple frames to get comfortable doing something totally different. He's all in on the first shot, and that's what makes him as good as he is. He just believes that every move he makes is correct. And when you get to that level and you commit to that first shot every time, you're a couple frames ahead of everybody else.
So let's get to the show. More nervous bowling on the show, or more nervous bowling a little Dougie Vision back at Lodi somewhere?
Actually out on the show because I wasn't as nervous as I expected to be, and I made myself nervous by not being like going into the show, the prep before the show, interviews, practice pair, all that kind of stuff. I felt normal. Like I felt totally fine. I got to my couple of practice shots on the TV pair before my match, and I didn't feel anything. And I started to freak myself out because I wasn't nervous.
You were expecting to be like, what the like, right?
Expecting to excuse my language. I thought I was gonna be I thought I was gonna be really nervous. And I got to that pair, and I was like so calm that I made myself nervous. And they took me a couple frames to like kind of shake that because I wasn't nervous about shot clock. I wasn't nervous about bowling on TV. And it was really, really weird. And I made myself overthink the situation by not being nervous, And so you could tell, like, the first few frames, like, kind of standing up on it, I had the jitters a little bit. And it was strictly because I made that happen. I wasn't nervous going into it, and I made that happen. And then once I got comfortable and, started to kind of calm down, things obviously got better. I hit the pocket at one point. It was probably 14 or 15 shots in a row.
You did. You threw the ball great on the show.
Yeah, I got really comfortable, and I was really impressed with how I handled the environment and the situation. Obviously, going on TV out to be the biggest thing in my life, and it was. It was the coolest day of my entire life. But I made the situation way bigger in my head than it needed to be. Um, Granted, I don't think there was anything I could have done that would have beaten Simo twice. I was one move short of having the chance to beat him the first time. And once I made the move, I threw back 4 or 5, and I got to 220. But I don't think there was anything I could have done regardless that would have beaten him twice. So
Now, you talk about beating him twice. I've always been saying this for years that the tournament leader has to lose twice. I mean, and I know they put that rule in this year. Do you agree with it or no? I for that tournament, you have to do it, right?
yeah, of course. And I've said that for a long time. That I mean, I'm a believer that tournaments should never end in one-game matches like that. I think that total pin should always determine the winner because that's the person that bowled the best. That's the way golf is, and I'm not a golf fan, but I think that their format and their structure is correct. Um, but that being said, I've been saying it for a long time that the Masters winner should have to lose twice. The guy that comes out of the winner's bracket at least. And
Absolutely.
granted, it obviously didn't benefit me this year that this was the year that they implemented that rule, but I 100% agree with it. Anthony out averaged me by 26 a game in match play. Why I have the ability to walk on and hit the pair better than he does, and he doesn't have a chance to at least earn that win. And it's happened to Jacob in the past with U.S. Open. He led by 600 and 150 on TV, and still beat the person by 500 for the week, but didn't win the tournament. So I agreed with the rule as much as it didn't benefit me. I think it was totally correct, and like I said, Anthony was going to win. He was going to win, and even if I beat him the first game, he was going to win. So.
Was there anything that you've had in your career that could have prepped you for TV day? Like even like you said, you won a Fusion, team trials, Team USA. Is there anything that you've seen so far that was like, I can go back to that moment and say, hey, I'm calm now? Like, you know what I mean? Or there's nothing you can prep for to go on TV?
I don't think so. So I'll be honest with you. When I was on Team USA in 2020 and 2021, and I'm going to call them out for it very respectfully, but I got the shaft a little bit those 2 years. The COVID thing did not help. I never got to experience camp or traveling for Team USA or experiencing those bigger moments. I never got any of that. I've never been drafted to the PBA league, which I didn't really deserve it until I would say this year. I never got any of those experiences, those groundbreaking kind of moments. So, like I said, I think I handled TV about as good as I could have. I've made every spare I shot at, which I was. You can see those frames went like this when I made a couple spares in a row, right? But yeah, I think I handled it as good as I could have. I don't think there's anything that I, could have relied on that would have prepped me for it. I made the intercollegiate team championships in 2018, and that was nothing like bowling a show. I was nervous that the TV pair was really hot. It was really cramped space, and it went by super fast. And granted, this show went by fast too, but the environment was different. The thought process was different. I don't think there's anything that really could have prepped for that except being there.
Can you imagine if the Masters was back at Carolier and you make the show at the Masters at Carolier instead?
I'm really hoping that I can make a show when the Players is there because I can only imagine the amount of people that would come out.
Oh God, yeah.
And even going into obviously people from Brooklyn would come watch. My crew from Long Island would come watch. I mean, they had a watch party for this show.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see. But I know some of the guys in Jersey would come out. There are plenty of bowlers that I bumped into in Dougie Vision or Joe Navarro's tournaments out there. And that bowled that are like, man, we hope you get there. Well, we're supporting you. I can only imagine the turnout.
And that's what's cool about it, like the bowling world, Mike, and you'll agree to this one. Regardless of who it is, whether it's you, me, Dougie, whoever it is, put Dougie in your spot, right? I know he bowled Masters. If he's making a run at the show in match play, everybody in this area is pulling for him.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't matter who the person is. If there's a local guy making noise at the national level, you have everybody backing you 1,000%.
Cool about that is like they get to live that moment through somebody else.
Exactly.
And that's what a lot of these guys from Babylon, they're living that through me, and that's not a conceited comment at all. I think it's awesome that they're there every step of the way with me. These are the guys that when I go home after getting beat up for 3 weeks on tour, they're like, man, just stay with it, you can do it, and to see all of them come together and watch and support that day, it was just something. It was so cool.
That's your support system right there,
I was very grateful to have the people that I did come out to the show. My girlfriend came out. My sponsors came out. My mom was able to fly out. It was the best. Like I said, the best day of my life. My college roommate even came out. And like I said, if I could have that moment in a closer to home situation, man, there's going to be people outside. They're tailgating outside. Like it's going to it's going to be one of those awesome moments.
Yeah, because people don't realize how tight the Northeast bowling scene really is.
Of course,
and we're nuts. We are.
As much trash talk and competitiveness as there is, like you want to see those guys do something like that, And I remember years ago that they used to run that main bracket tournament thing on tour. It was literally a 2-game total pinfall bracket.
Oh yeah. Up in Portland, yeah.
Yeah, there were some local guys that made runs at that, and the support that those guys got at that tournament was huge. Like I can just imagine, like even if it was a guy like say Cav made a show, or anybody from our area made a show, it would just be such an incredible thing to watch everybody go and support, and because if it was somebody else and not me, I'd go watch.
Absolutely.
Like at the Masters this year, there were some guys from my area. Gary Haynes bowled. If he would run at this show, I would have went and watched him bowl.
Even Brandon made a run too. Brandon finished 14th.
Right. And it's just cool to see how everybody, granted, there's a lot of animosity in the bowling community.
Yeah.
Definitely cool to see everybody could come together when it really matters. So.
Yeah, dude, it's good stuff, man. I mean, that's the week of your life right there. There's no doubt about it.
There's been nothing better so far. Hopefully, at some point, there will be a week better than that, right? But if this is the first of many, I can't imagine experiencing that every week. But the last thing I'll say about it, I looked at Simo after they announced the lineup for the show. I looked at him and I said, "Is this what it feels like every week?" He was like, man, eventually you start to get over those little jitters about making the shows. He's like, but the first couple you make, he's like, there's nothing better.
So, total random question, and this is just an opinion. Does he run down Belmo for majors?
I would like to think so.
I do too.
I have a massive amount of respect for Belmo.
Oh, of course.
I've said from 2012 or 2013 that he was going to be the best that ever did it. Clearly, right now he's on that trajectory. Simo will run him down. He's got youth on his side. I think he has more tricks, and Belmo will probably be done in a couple of years and he'll transition into being a dad. So his number is going to stop at some point. And Simo, when he gets to that point, he's going to take full advantage. And if it's not him, there's going to be somebody else that comes along that has a chance to run him down too. So.
Listen, you got to bowl well at Carolier. I mean, the takeover is here.
I think that's my buddy James that wrote that.
There was a couple years. Rusty had made a run at the U.S. Open the one year at Carolier. I mean, that's the place you want to make the run. We will all come out of the woodwork for that. I mean,
I'm really hoping that that's the case, and I know that. So the Players is a little weird. They're doing shows on 2 separate weekends this year.
Okay.
The first weekend I think 12 people make the show at the Players, and it's like one of those extended formats. I think it's a bracket at some point. And then the following weekend is the big show. So it's split up by the Raw Holman. The Raw Holman's in Delaware.
Yeah.
The little Players show and the big Players show. It's a weird format. It works. It's weird, but I can only imagine the amount of people that come out if somebody makes a contender show or even a big show. It'd be wild. It'd be really cool.
It would be phenomenal. And I'll tell you one guy who will not be in the Players field will be this guy here. I'm going to put this on here and we'll have a little fun here. That guy. What's his name? That was Wheeler. Was that guy's name, right? Frank Wheeler, Jim Wheeler. What is that? This guy here. Jim Wheeler. Was that his name?
Yeah, Jim Wheeler. He's still.
And there's one man who won't be in the Players field. I'll tell you. And there's the man himself, Joe Lorenzo.
All joking aside, those are some of the best, the most enjoyable days that I had growing up was sitting there watching them kill each other. And I would look at people that I'd be hanging out with. I'd be like, man, I can't wait to bowl against those guys.
And they're all going for $10 or $20. I mean, they were making it like it was life or death.
Yeah, I know. It was. These people were throwing food at each other. They were throwing chairs. Like, but it was literally like television every weekend for me. I enjoyed going there and watching them, and I had been maybe 3 or 4 straight years sitting there every Saturday for 36 weeks because I bowled Saturday nights. I'd sit there every week and watch these guys, mess around. It was a lot of fun.
And you learn a lot from them. And as crazy as they were, and they weren't really superstars, but you learn from them. Like they had tricks and like played the head games. Like Snake, there was nobody better than Snake playing a head game.
No, I used to enjoy the 5 out when you would cross over.
Oh yeah.
You could have a 5 or 6 bagger, and now somebody's on the lane talking smack to you, and you grab one, and now you go from having a 6 bagger and bowling 300 to now you're 5 out. You can bowl 250 and lose.
Yep.
It's just so much fun watching those guys. It really was.
Now, so you said Bucky still bowls, and we're going off the topic. I really don't care. Does Snake still bowl, or is he even around anymore?
I haven't seen him from probably like the end of 2011, beginning of 2012.
Oh wow.
He wasn't around that last year at Maple much. He was working nights. He wasn't around very much. I know people still bumped into him the first couple of years after.
Yeah.
He was still working for MTA at that point, I believe.
Yeah.
Other than that, I have no idea what his whereabouts are.
How long has Maple been down for now? Is it almost 10 years that it's been knocked down?
Yeah. June 1st will be 10 years.
When is it?
June 1st.
Wow, 10 years this year.
Yep.
Jesus.
Yep, it's gone by real fast. Very, very
That
fast.
was a great place.
I met some of my best friends in that place. I mean, some of the people that I still bowl league with, I grew up in that place. They drive all the way out to Long Island to bowl now, and I wouldn't change anything about growing up there. The Waspinas were great to me.
Yep.
They were great to my family. So I wouldn't do anything about growing up there.
Who was the other one? Andy Cologne. He worked the desk there, right?
He still bowls. I haven't seen him. It's got to be 7 or 8 years. But I know he still bowls. Last I heard, he was at Astoria in
okay. It was him, Dale Shaw, Richie Red. I mean, there's so many of them.
Dale Shaw bowled nationals with my group last year.
You told me that, yeah.
Our group, it was me, Rob Calabrese, a couple of guys that we met in the Midwest.
Okay.
And Dale Shaw, John Prestigiacomo, Ross Tedisco.
Ross bowls at my place now. He's a Jersey guy now.
Yeah, he lives out near Strathmore.
That's where I see him. Yep.
Came to nationals with us. We had a fun time. We had a good group of guys that went out last year. So,
dude, those are some of the greatest guys I've ever met. Like the 4 or 5 year span that I lived out there, they were fantastic. They're so welcoming. But the stuff that they did for older guys, like in their 50s and 60s, it was unbelievable.
And like to think that that's how they were for 20 or 30 years bowling there. That was their prime time. Saturdays at 1:30 on 25 through 30 right outside the shop.
Yep.
That was their prime time for God knows how long. I used to even go and watch, like when I was off from school as a kid, I would go and watch when they bowl high-low on 12:30 at 12:30 on the low side, the seniors.
What is that? I don't know what that is. I never knew what that was.
Somebody over 175 somebody over 175.
Okay.
Somebody under 175. They'd like randomly pair up for doubles. And like 12:30 in the afternoon on Wednesdays and Fridays. I'd go watch them bowl that too. And then they would get another pair afterwards and they'd bowl more games after that, and like there's just so much fun. It was very enjoyable to watch.
And George was there running the shop. George, great player.
Yeah, George.
Where is he? He's a show place now, I think, right?
Yeah, I have, so I didn't get to see George in his prime, obviously, like his bowling prime.
Yeah.
When I watched George, it was obviously towards the end of when he was bowling. He was hurt.
He always had a shoulder, right? Shoulder
issue. So I never really got to see him in his prime, but I heard that he was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Like Bob Spallone came out of there. There's a lot of good players that came out of there.
Yeah, it's so much good bowling that like a lot of people don't appreciate, obviously, if they don't know the guys, But
I know that's the thing. Nobody knows like what we're talking about, but we do. And I'm going to give you one more here because this guy was another Maple legend.
Right over there. What do we got here, Bucky? Fan it out. Show everybody what's
this
going on.
This is what a Saturday afternoon at Maple Lanes would be.
Let me see, Buck. Fan it out.
Let's go, right here.
Look at this. Big money.
By the way, the camera work is so terrible. Harvey Kaplan. Remember Harvey Kaplan?
Let's go.
Follows me on.
Fucking jerk. Look at him. Unbelievable.
I can't do with Harvey with his political views. I can't.
Can I hear you the left?
Hold up. Any of that. A lot. But yeah, I mean, guys like Richie Red and you know Mario Mignon, rest in peace.
I know. I love Mario.
One of the nicest guys I ever met. I used to go out to dinner with him. We'd go to Outback once a week.
Right across from on 86th Street. Yep.
15th, we talked sports till had to be 11 or 12 o'clock when they were kicking us out.
Yeah.
You know, so many good people in that place.
So you talked about sports, Mike. Let's break them down. How bad was your experience in Miller Park last week?
Oh, man.
I mean, you go to see the Mets in Milwaukee, and they stink.
So look at this, right? So
here we go. And they left the bases loaded in the first, by the way.
So I went to the game wearing a Max Scherzer sweatshirt. I don't know if you can see it.
Yep, I can see it. Now, did he pitch? He didn't pitch in Milwaukee, right?
He did. He
did. Yeah, he got lit up in Milwaukee. Yep, he did.
He pitched the game that I was at, so it was pretty convenient. Got roughed up in the first inning, but pitched really good through 5, and then gave up the back-to-back shots in the 6th.
That's right.
And granted, the Mets had like 6 or 7 guys in scoring position in the first 4 innings and just could not get a run across. I mean, Wade Miley looked like Cy Young.
Wade Miley stinks.
Oh, he's awful. He's velocity challenged, and he always ends up back in Milwaukee because that's the only place that actually accepts him. But he's got good history against the Mets, and he looked like Cy Young that night. It was disgusting. He looked so good.
They look so. I mean, I know it's only game 10, but they look so defeated already. They look terrible.
So I understand why they look like that. Like, you paid $43 million for a starting pitcher who's supposed to come in and pitch 35 games, and we have no idea when he's going to pitch. You know, and your $20 million a year closer isn't going to pitch this year at all.
But that was a freak. That's a freak accident.
Oh, it's awful. It sucks for sports altogether. But
but Mike, honestly, if he snapped it by doing nothing, he wasn't jumping around. That thing was going to snap anyway.
Yeah, right. He was going to get hurt at some point. Might not have been to that. He was going to get hurt at some point.
Exactly.
The other thing that sucks is the lineup knows they're missing a bat. You know,
huge bat somewhere.
They were supposed to go out and get a quality middle of the lineup producer that's not Eduardo Escobar, and
Carlos Correa was the guy.
Right, and like they knew that when that deal fell through, there was nobody else out there to fill that. You know, so they're looking for somebody that's looking to get off a contract at the trade deadline now or something along those lines. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't think Alvarez is going to contribute to what we would like him to. I'm just not sold on him hitting at the major league level. He's a terrible defensive catcher right now.
But Nito is even worse. Nito's an automatic out.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was very happy with the Narvaez signing.
Yes.
I like him. He's always been one of those sneaky good, like, top 10 or 12 catchers. They're a bat away. You know, the pitching is actually not as bad as I expect it to be right now. I mean, you're not going to get good production out of McGill and Peterson all year.
But Senga looks really good.
Senga looks great. The bullpen is holding up really well right now.
Yeah, surprisingly.
First time since probably 2006 that the bullpen was over-prepared. I mean, they've had too many relievers in a long time. So the fact that they can plug and play between Ottavino and Robertson is huge, right? Like that's
and the other guy they got, not Brooks Raley, the other guy. He pitched in Milwaukee. He had Tommy John last year. He didn't pitch at all last year.
Oh boy.
I want to say he's 47. I think the number is 47. Tall guy, he's a righty.
John Curtis.
John Curtis?
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks pretty good too.
Yeah, I'm like fully sold on the bullpen being deep enough. You know, and as long as Brooks Raley can be a productive lefty, again, we're not looking for like the Aaron Loop production, but as long as he can be productive, the bullpen looks fine. I'm not worried about the bullpen. I think we are a clutch middle of the order bat away from being a World Series contender.
So then, I've been saying this for a while now. Not even how much, the Mets are going to make Ohtani the highest paid baseball player ever. Either they're going to offer him $500 million and he's going to sign in New York,
or they're going to give up massive prospects and trade for him.
But they have the means to do it, and if they don't do it, the Mets offering him 500 is going to make him get 550 from the Dodgers or from the Angels. The Mets are going to make him the highest paid player regardless, one way or the other.
And like the way I would look at it right now is you have Lindor penciled in for however long he's playing baseball, which means you don't need Ronnie Mauricio. And Mauricio is producing at the minor league level right now. He's played
a lot.
Unbelievable, right? So his trade has never been higher. Vientos looks okay in the minors right now. He's hitting the ball pretty well.
Beatty looks like he's legit though. He's the guy you got to bring up.
Right, and that's the problem is I think that they ask for all three of those guys in a deal, and outside of those three, I'm not like we don't know what Kevin Parada is yet. Like we don't know. If granted, they just brought up the Angels. They just brought up Logan O'Hoppe, so they don't really need a catcher. But you don't really know outside of those guys what you have yet. So they're going to ask for at least two. I wouldn't be surprised if they ask for all of them, and then major league talent on top of that. I would almost rather pay the money,
Yeah, exactly.
You can use those trade pieces to fill out the rest of your roster, or they become contributors. And, you move Mauricio to second and let McNeil play the outfield full time, or, something along those lines. Like there's room to fit everybody in if you need to.
And the best part, we have the owner he has the money to go.
No care is given in the world about how much spend. It's amazing.
And that's the great, I like what they're doing. They're holding the prospects, like you said, and we'll open up the checkbook. You want 400? Here's 400.
Right.
It doesn't matter anymore.
So what was really crazy for me being that, obviously I've been a huge Met fan since 03, 04 when I started watching baseball, and to watch him open the checkbook for Scherzer last year, I was like, yeah, there's no Scherzer, these rumors are fake, it's not happening, and I wrote it off. And then I was bowling league on a Sunday night, and Jeff Scarola was there, and we were running over to each other every frame. Wow, this deal is going to get done. This is crazy, And before we were done bowling, before we got done with 3 games, the deal was done. It was signed. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this is the best thing ever. And more money. And then this offseason, he spent money again on Verlander and obviously re-signing Diaz. And then he offered Correa that crazy contract. I'm like,
and don't forget, he signed Nimmo too this year.
Right, 165.
Yeah.
Looking at all this, and I'm like, man, this is to be the team in New York that actually spends money. Now I understand what that feels like.
When I realized that he was for real, when he cut Robinson Cano last year and said, "Here's your check, get out of here."
The Wilpons never. They would have. Would have played 150 games at the major league level last year.
Yep, he would have been playing second, batting third every day.
Yep,
they would have never got rid of him. Cohen's like, "No, you're not producing. Here's the check. Get out of here."
Yep, and they're still paying him $20 million this year because he's not on a roster.
Who cares?
Who cares? Yep.
To Cohen, it's a drop in the bucket.
Oh yeah, and I'm ecstatic that guy's out of town, and I mean we have a couple other guys that we need to kind of look to do the same with. I think Carrasco is going to be one of them once our rotation.
Yeah. And we got James McCann, another one. Goodbye. Good riddance.
Thank God.
But now we'll look at it now. The catching situation just as bad as having McCann.
Yes. Right now is probably that nightmare situation where you still wish you had him. But at the same time, is he even on Baltimore's roster?
I don't know if he made the roster in Baltimore.
Yeah, I don't know if he did either. And if he didn't make the roster and he's not on a major league team right now, that
we're paying him, right?
It just proves that we made the right decision.
Absolutely.
I think Nito is a major league catcher. He's just more of a 2, obviously, rather than a 1. He's pretty good defensively.
He's a very, very serviceable 2. That's what he is.
He contributes. I mean, again, he's not the worst hitting catcher I've seen in baseball. We've seen worse.
We've seen James McCann, for Christ's sake.
Martin Maldonado has been 120 game a year mainstay for Houston, and the guy hits 175. Yeah. So it's bad. I've seen worse. But I'm I don't know. I think it's early for us to panic. If we could get Verlander back sooner rather than later and see what kind of product we can actually put out there, then what kind of moves we're missing. But
he is not Gary Sanchez.
Josh, no, Gary Sanchez. Gary, trust me, I actually was one of. I'm not a biased sports fan. I try not.
You're not a homer. You're not a homer.
Try not to be. I'm going to a Braves game tomorrow, most likely.
Tell Tim Pfeiffer, he'll say hello.
I just I'm not a biased sports fan, so I liked Gary Sanchez when
I did too.
I thought Gary Sanchez was the real deal until I realized how bad he was defensively, and then he let that affect his hitting. In my opinion, he realized how many mistakes he was making behind the plate every night, and he's like, "All right, now I got to go make up for it by hitting the ball," and couldn't hit the ball. I like Gary Sanchez. I just don't think he's better than any product we have right now.
No.
Is he going to hit the ball over the fence more? Sure. Is he going to strike out more? Definitely.
Absolutely.
And he's no better defensively than the two catchers we have in the majors. As bad as Alvarez looks defensively, I would rather have him play every day. So.
Guy can't catch. It's true. All right. So where are we? Are we a division winner, or are we a wild card? If it's right now, this is the team we're taking into the summer.
We're a wild card.
We're
team.
a wild card team, exactly.
And I think there's actually a pretty sizable gap there.
Atlanta's so much better than us.
The Braves, they find guys every year that contribute in the rotation. Spencer Strider was supposed to be a reliever last year. He came up
unhittable,
unbelievable. I was the idiot that dropped him in fantasy when I thought he was supposed to get a spot start, and I started him, and he got me a ton of points. And then I dropped him because I needed to make room for somebody coming off the IL, and little did I know that was going to be a bad mistake. But they produce guys on cheap contracts, no less. It feels like out of nowhere every year. Every year they're rushing guys up to the majors. Michael Harris came up way earlier than he was supposed to. The guy's electric. He's literally Ronald Acuna 2.0.
He's like sent to the IL. He's hurt.
For how long though?
The 15-day, but
he's still going to contribute. Their lineup top to bottom. They have two fantastic catchers.
Yeah.
Sucks that one of them.
How do we feel about Darno now?
I'm one of those guys that watches Mets and their production when they leave.
Yeah.
The one that's hurting me really bad right now is Seth Lugo.
Oh God, I know. How great would he be right now for us?
Especially with the fact that we need a rotation arm. I'd much rather have McGill coming out of or even Peterson coming out of the bullpen and have Lugo starting as our 5.
Yeah.
He looks awesome. I'm very glad that we get to miss him. This week.
He would shut the Mets out. He would just.
And I respect him for not talking to the Mets about a contract.
Agreed.
He knew what he wanted. He knew somebody was going to give it to him because as a starter, he proved that he could be serviceable. I mean, he was our most reliable reliever over the last 3-4 seasons. So he proved that he can pitch, and I mean, rightfully so. He's doing everything he said he would and more with San Diego. So.
All right, so I'm going to wrap this up. So
Sure.
When are you home? So you're going to bowl the players, and then players. Does that end the swing?
So I'm away right now. I'm in Atlanta.
Yep, you're in Atlanta.
I fly home Monday. I'm back up for like 12 or 13 days. The players is that following week in Jersey, the first week of May.
Yep.
Going from the players, unless I make the Saturday show, the Contenders show, I'm going from the players to Rochester to both states with the guy at my bowling center. Going from Rochester back to Delaware to bowl the Rolf Holman doubles that following week. And then unless I'm on the big show for the players, I have that weekend off.
So I am trying to organize a trip to Philadelphia to watch the Met-Philly game the last weekend of June.
Last weekend of June.
It's the 23rd, 24th, 25th of June.
Oh, that's the weekend before, but I think there's got to be something on bowling.
All right, so you know what? I'm going to bother you because I'm trying to organize to get like 20 guys to go to Philly to watch the game, to go to a game. So I will text you and remind you the dates. If you're around, we'll come out because I think it'll be a fun trip to Philly.
Even if I'm bowling Sunday, like maybe we could go up for the one night.
Yeah, they're playing Friday night, and then they got, I guess, the Fox game at 4:00 on Saturday.
Oh yeah, maybe send me the dates and
we'll talk.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so last one, Mike.
Sure.
You're a first timer going into Brooklyn, right? You're a first timer. Never been to Brooklyn before.
This is definitely a pizza question.
L&B or Roll and Roaster?
Oh, that's tough.
So, for those who don't know, Roll and Roaster is it's roast beef and it's cheese on anything you please with a lemonade, right?
It's the best roast beef sandwich with cheese in the world.
It's phenomenal.
Oh my God.
Or we go to L&B, which is Peterson got in the inning. Surprise. Or L&B.
Okay, so if this was early 2010s, I think L&B and by a landslide. L&B is not the same anymore. The sauce
it has not. You are right.
The sauce, and I haven't had it in probably 2 years now. But the last time I did have it, the sauce was a little different. I think now I would choose Roll and Roaster.
Roll and Roaster. Yeah, much love for Roll and Roaster.
Those sandwiches right now, if they were in front of me.
Now, have you ever had the pizza at Gio's place in Park Slope?
Gio's, no.
He's the bowler. He bowls at Melody.
Yeah, I don't think so. I wasn't around Melody much.
Okay.
I was in Melody. So Brian Paul was
BP.
my
Yeah.
once Maple closed for a little while. And that was the only times I would take the train with a case box of bowling balls from Gravesend to Melody. I would put the box on my shoulder and take the box on the train and go to Melody and have Brian drill me bowling balls and then get back on the train to take the balls home. Committed.
All right. So first timer, we would rather go to Roll and Roaster
Yes.
instead of going to LMB.
I will give a small shout out to Vesuvio in Bay Ridge on 3rd Avenue. Vesuvio's Pizza. It's in the
Okay.
It's my favorite traditional slice of pizza in Brooklyn by far.
So that's the place.
That's where if I needed pizza and I'm driving through Brooklyn, that's where I'm getting
That's
off.
the spot.
Yeah, Vesuvio's awesome.
All right, dude. All right, go back to whatever you're doing in Atlanta. You're going to the Brave game tomorrow. God help you.
I think
I'll text you, let you know the dates for Philly, but I'm trying to get a nice group to go. Dude, much success. I will run into you whenever I run into you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man. Really,
dude, you're the best. All right, Mike, be well.
Thanks, man.
You got it. All right, so we'll be back maybe next Tuesday. I don't know. See what my schedule is like. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but we'll be back next Tuesday most likely, and see you all grab next week. I mean, we went from Norm Duke to you, Mike. So we're the talent level's going up every week. You know,
I'm in good company. That means
you are. We go from Duke to you. We're going up in the world here, right?
But listen, hopefully you have me back in like three or 4 weeks when I win the Players. So
we'll do it live. We'll do it live from. Well, I'll tell you what. You win the Players, right? We'll do this live from Roll and Roaster.
Oh yeah, I'm in.
Roll and Roaster. I'll buy. I don't care. You win the Players. I'll buy. And we'll do it live from Roll and Roaster with a lemonade and like some roast beefs and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. I'm in. Count me in.
All right. We're out of here. Mike, be well. Everybody, we'll be back next Tuesday. Like the page, YouTube channel, and we'll see you guys later.
Thanks, man.